Hello, welcome along. Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome along if you're new. If you are new, please hit that subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and go from there. Right, so most of you will be aware by now that I am building this model here, and this is the brand new 1/24 scale Messerschmitt Bf109 G-5 G6 from Airfix, and it is a gorgeous model. Now, if you've seen the builds, I'm up to part 5 where I've done the engine. You can tell how much work there is in that engine to take 5 videos, and basically we have done the engine as you can see here. Okay, the exhausts aren't glued on yet, but they're on there. The rust has been done with pigments, and then everything else is all painted and everything. You can see we've got lovely decals on there, and it's all very nice. I've got to go around and do some touch up, like on this where this hose joins here. I'm going to fill that and paint it and everything. But I'll go around and do some little bits of work and everything and get it all looking lovely. That was where I touched the side of the Tamiya brush, the glue brush on my finger, and it continued underneath and got onto the paint. So that needs to be touched in. But basically, it's a beautiful piece of plastic engineering. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and with some care of assembly it does really come out looking beautiful. So there we are. So that's the engine that I built for the project. Now this model I'm building, the one I'm doing on the channel, is the intention is to do it as version B, which is the United States Air Force, United States Army Air Force captured version. So I may have a change of plan because this has come out so beautifully. What I'd like to do is have obviously this will be all open, okay, so carry open, canopy open, everything open, showing everything off, looking all lovely. Now, the plan was originally, I bought 2 of these kits. Airfix kindly sent me one, and I bought the second one, and the idea was to do the US Army Air Force one all opened up, and the plan was then to do the RAF version all closed up. Now, that's how I want to go, but I'm looking at this and it's so beautiful. What I might do is wait for the air scale improvement set for the cockpit to arrive, and then use that air scale with the opened up one, and then build the closed up RAF version first. So we shall see what we're going to do. So basically what I thought I'd do, because you haven't seen it, when you actually get this model, this is the version I'm doing, and that one there. They're actually, these 3 are the same aircraft. Okay, this is it when the Germans owned it, and then it was captured by the Americans, and then it was handed over to the RAF, and they repainted it in their interesting colours. So the idea is you build the engine, okay, for display. You can see it here, all right, or you do, as they say in the start of the instructions, you omit all that and you start at step 61 and you're building up the dummy engine. Now, unfortunately, you need to use the dummy engine. So unless you've got a spare sprue G, you can't actually have the engine on display next to the aircraft, like it's a museum piece or something, unless you've got another spare engine or a spare sprue G or a spare kit or something. So what I'm going to do in this video today is, in one video, we're going to build the engine as per it should be for the closed up version. Now, the differences are, obviously, as you can see, we don't have any details, we don't add any of this lovely pipe work and tanks and everything, so we'll have lots of spares for the spares box. We do actually add the exhaust the same. Worth noting here, in both the full build and the dummy build engine, the exhausts are called up as H1 and H2. They're actually G1 and G2. They're on the G sprue. You can see them here. There's the G sprue. You can see the G there. There's the G, the right way up. Okay, and then there's your exhaust there, the slide molded. People have talked about them being slide molded the wrong way round. They're not actually slide molded the wrong way round. If you look at how they are, you couldn't do them the other way round, because they would be wedged into the tool. The tool comes in and then comes out, and that's what gives us this lovely weld down on the outside. If they'd made them the other way round, the tool wouldn't come over, because it would have to be, the wedge would be the wrong way round. It would be thicker here than it is, there, and therefore it wouldn't come out. Okay, so there we go. Right, so what we're going to do now, we're not going to worry about washing sprues or anything, because this isn't even going to be on display. We're not going to worry about seams, not going to worry about anything really. All we're going to have to do is just build this up. I'll probably just build the exhausts up and leave them from there. I'll leave these off until we've done the exhausts, and then you can see here the other variation comes when you put your exhaust shrouds on. You can see here we have E17 and F17, and on the closed up version you're building E18 and F16, and I can show you the difference now. You can see this part here, this is going to be F16 and this is going to be F17, I think it is, but you can see on the back end there's a difference here. Okay, this one is designed to take the plastic cowl into this recess here. On there you can see, and this one has no recess, so it's like the original proper aircraft would be with the thin piece of metal there. Okay, so you can't actually, unlike the Spitfire, you can't actually build this for display and have the cowlings fit. It won't work unless you shave away the cowlings to within an inch of their lives, and then they'll go over, but I very much doubt that would work. So let's get our book and we'll come over the page here. Alright, so we can make a start. So let's get stuck in, shall we? Right, so as I say, not really too worried about really tidy sprue cleanup and all that sort of thing. What I want to do is just build this up in one video and go from there. It might be a bit of a help to the newer modelers out there. So I've got the actual main crankcases off there. We're going to start with the heads. So we've got G16 and 17. So G16 and G17 are going to go together. So this might be handy for beginners as well, because newer modelers, because I'll show you some little techniques that I use to clean up the sprues and stuff. So G16 and G17, this is the port assembly. Now you can see on here what Airfix have done is put the sprue gate on the actual face, so you must make sure that's cut down flush. Okay, same on there, cut that off flush there, cut that off flush there. Whoops. Okay, and then we're going to grab a sanding stick and just sand this flat, just like so, until the sprue gate is gone. Okay, now we'll do the same here, and then the same here. Okay, none of this is really very critical because this is, as I say, it's literally a dummy engine, and you're only going to need this to support the exhaust. That's the only job it's doing. Alright, so you can see it goes together absolutely fine. Okay, it's a lovely fit. So what we'll do is we'll grab a couple of clothes pegs. Now, this is great actually doing this because I can show you something. What I always do, I always clamp my parts together first, as you will well know, and then I cement them. Make sure they're aligned. Make sure they're correctly aligned, and then I cement them together. Right, the reason I do that is because when you put glue in and then put them together, glue oozes out. So I'll show you now what happens. I'm going to flood these with, in fact I'm going to use the quick setting because I want it to be quick. Speed is the name of the game here, so I'm putting plenty of cement in there. Okay, and that will wick along through capillary action, and that will go into that joint, go nice and quickly all the way around, and then across the bottom, just like so, plenty of cement. Okay, and then when I clamp it, you can probably see there we've got glue oozing out. You can see it oozing out of here. Okay, and that's why I always clamp first, and then we don't get that oozing out. Now in situations like this, it doesn't really matter. What I am doing here is making sure we've got these parts lined up, because I did notice on my other one I had a slight step. Now that could be because the pins are forcing it to not line up, but there we go. Okay, just use what little bit of fingernail I've got and just check we don't have a step going either way. There we are. Okay, so that's that done. So that's the port one. So we'll get the starboard one done, let them dry, and then we'll come back and do this shaving. Alright, it's been a little while now, so that's the glue's gone off on those. Now we don't really need to worry, like we did with our display engine. We went round and did all the seams and all nicey and everything. We don't really need to worry about that on this one, but what we do need to make sure is on this bottom here where it goes onto the block, we need to make sure that's nice and sort of seamless. What I always find the best way to deal with things like this is get a radius blade, this is a number 10, and just scrape along the middle like that, and just make sure there's no raised edge there. So do the same on this one, just scrape along the middle and just get rid of any step or anything that's there. Just like so. And and then we can come along with our sanding stick and just sand over there. These are the Infini sanding sticks I'm using, by the way, and they're absolutely brilliant. You get them from Brooks Models. If you use the code NMB10, you can get 10% off your purchase from £15 to £50, and if you spend more than £50, you can use code NMB20 and get 20% off. And he's now sending me another sample of stuff. He's got some new products in, and he started to do the full range of Lightcraft bench lights. So go take a look and have a look, and you'll get some really good prices if you use my discount code. So that'll be pretty cool. Right, so I've got this piece off here, and this is going to be removing material from here, from the front end of the rocker covers, cam covers, whatever they are. And this is to allow the lower cowling to close up underneath. So they've given us this jig, which is very nice of them. So this is the correct one. This is the port. So we're going to use the side marked P. Okay, and that's going to go over there. And as you can see, you've got this little extension there. What I am going to do is just remove these seams. Not worry about the detail because we're going to be sanding it all off anyway. But I'm just going to remove those seams so the jig fits nicely. Okay, just to make sure the jig fits properly. I'm going to come over here now. There we are. Right, so that'll go over like that. So you can see now that we've got an extension sticking out. Now, what we can do is take a Sharpie, if I can find a bloody Sharpie. What we can do is go around here and mark this with the jig on. Sounds like a dance, doesn't it? Get your jig on. So we've got the jig on, we can run that, and now we can take that off and you can see the bit we've got to sand off. So I've got here, this is a little multi-tool thing from Amazon. It's called a Galax Pro. You get all sorts, they come with all sorts of accessories. This is a great little thing. You just plug it into your computer, charge it up via USB, and it's brilliant. I'm going to use the second speed, and I've got a little cutter on here. Whoops. I'm going to turn it around so that doesn't happen. There we go. Now it doesn't really matter if you go too far because obviously it's a clearance thing. There we go. So we can try the jig on there again. We should be able to see that we've removed enough plastic. So it should be sub-flush. It's a bit sticking out on the front there still, so I'm going to come in here. You can see we've got some black ink there as well, so the pen works. There we go. So there we are, you can see that's all done. So we've ground off the front corner of that. I'll do the same on the other one and I'll come straight back. Alright, so there we are. We can check once again, we can see. There we go. So that's gone over there and it's basically sub-flush. You want to make sure it's below that level. It doesn't matter if you take too much off, but if you leave material on, you'll have problems with the build later on. So you can see that's sub-flush with there as well. So that's that jig done its job. And we've got both our cam covers there done. Okay, so that's that. Right, next thing is to assemble the actual main engine block, which I've already done off camera. So there we go, so that's our main engine block done. We can sand away here and we'll sand away the back. Make sure it's nice and flat because we do have to fit that rear cover on. Make sure that's nice and flat there. Okay, clean that off on the jeans. Right, so next thing to do is fit this dummy top cover. You can see that on the real engine we have this cover with all the detail and everything on it. We don't need all of that because it's all closed up. So Airfix have cleverly provided us with this dummy piece. So that's just going to go into there like that. Okay, so that's gone in there. And if you remember when we did the proper engine, we used all Mr. Surfacer and everything on it and stuff. I'm just going to cement that into there. Get some in there as well. Make sure it's nice and strong because it's going to form a part of the support of the engine. It's going to hold all the cowlings and everything on the prop. So there we go. So that's that done. And now we can add the cylinder heads. So we can take our block here like this, and then this cylinder head is the wrong side. This one's going to go on there like that. So this is step 69. Okay, so that's going to go on like that. So what we can do here is paint some cement onto there. If you paint it into the nooks and crannies, it will go in there. Is that the right one? Yes, that's the right one. That's going that way, that's going that way. So that's just going to sit in there like that. Okay, and then we can put some cement on the outside. As I say, it doesn't matter because you're not going to see it. Okay, and then we can do the same on the other side. Test fit it first. Yep, that goes together lovely. So we'll paint some cement into there, paint some on there. There we go. Splash it all over. It's kind of nice in a way building stuff and not worrying about how tatty it is. As long as it goes together properly, you can't afford to leave sprue gates and stuff sticking out that's going to affect the fit of the parts. But you don't have to worry about glue marks and stuff like that. Right, so that's that done. Next thing is to fit this front cover and the main shaft for the prop. Make sure that turns in there nice and freely, and then we'll put this on the front of the engine. That's a really nice snug push on fit. Push that on like that. That all turns freely, that's lovely. So we can then go around the outside with some cement, and there we go. So make sure it's all pushed back nice and firmly. Make sure the prop spins. There we go, that's all nice. Then we've got this rear cover going together here. So that's G12 and G13. I haven't got those off the sprue yet. So G12 and G13, they're here. Again, we don't matter about detail because none of it's going to be seen. Alright, but we will just remove the sprue gates because we're modelers, that's what we do. We don't leave things all tatty, do we? Take that sprue gate from there and then drop this back in here. There we go. And then cement in there, cement in there. Okay, so that's all gone together like that, and then we've got this here, and that is going to go that way round onto there. So you can see we've got a large pin, small pin, large hole, small hole. So that's just basically going to sit like that. Alright, so we're going to put a drop of cement on there, plonk that on there, just like that. See how well it goes together, it all fits beautifully. Do you know what, I think I might get another one of these. It's such a lovely model, it really is a lovely, lovely model. And I mean, look at that, it's just gorgeous. Right, supercharger halves are coming together now. So we get these off the sprue. Again, we got sprue gates onto the face, which is nice, I like that, rather than having sprue gates onto the diameter. So we just get our cutters in here and remove that sprue gate from there. We'll remove that one from there, and then we can sand. If you remember, I talked about this in the previous build. You've got ejector pin marks here, raised ejector pin marks that are going to stop it going together. So we'll give them a little scrape first. There's 3 of them on there. Make sure you get rid of them, even for this dummy build, because otherwise the supercharger will be too fat. You can see there's 2 there as well. Now I don't think they're raised. Yes, they are. So they're going to be scraped away as well. So scrape those away, and then I'll get a skinny stick and we use the coarse side on here because we're not worried about finish and stuff. So we can sand away those ejector pin marks. Sand away the back of that, plonk it together. He says, "Come on, Nigel, call yourself a modeller and you can't put two parts together." Right, there we go. Now you can see you've got a nice tight joint. It's all closed up. So that's what we want. There we are. We can put some cement around there. Put some around there. And there we go. I'm not quite sure why we need the supercharger on there, but there must be a reason for it, otherwise they wouldn't tell us to do it. So then this is going to go onto there. Remember on the last one, if you want to go back and have a look at part 5, I actually glued this to the inlet manifold and then took it off as an assembly, and that enabled me to deal with the seam and not have a big gap in the seam. Some cement in there. There we go. So yeah, if you look on here, you can see there's the supercharger there, and that tube goes around, and there's actually a join here. So I want to take it off as assembly and deal with that seam rather than have to sand it when it was on the engine. Okay, so worth having a look at part 5 if you are newer to the hobby. Okay, so now we've got to put these gun supports on there from the Q-spring. I'm going to leave those off for now. So we've got these engine bearers. They're going to go on. What will be about 20 minutes in and it's practically done. So we'll cut the engine bearers off. These are going to fit onto the bulkhead. Okay, so there we go. That's that one. That's that one. Sand the sprue gates away. I'm not quite sure why they gave us these. I guess the real ones are two. You can see the difference. I'll show you the real ones where you can see them on my built engine, but you can see there, this is the real one and this is just a dummy. I'm guessing it's a lot slimmer to allow the cowling to go over it. Right, so we will deal with that. Sand that around there, and then this is going to go. So there's our engine, so this one's this side, so that's going to go into there and into there. Okay, so that's a beautiful fit, so that can go a drop of cement in each one of those. So we'll put the front in first and the back, so that's gone on like that, and then we'll test fit this one. Yep, that's beautiful. Drop of cement in there, drop of cement in there, transfer some of that to there. There we go, and then we can plonk that into there. Bring that around like that. There we are. That's the engine built on its supports. Now we've also got to add this oil tank at the front. I thought it was a plenum chamber, but it's actually an oil tank. So we're going to add this at the front. And they're not telling us to paint anything, are they? Other than the exhaust. I'm not going to do the exhaust just yet. I'm going to do the exhaust in this video, but I want to show you a little mod I do, which I did on the other engine, and I'll show you the parts next to the other one so you can do a comparison for yourself. Okay, and then let's cut these sprue gates off because they're quite heavy. That's not a criticism, it's just an observation. Personally, I don't mind heavy sprue gates. I'd rather have heavy sprue gates than short shots. Right, so that can go together like that. That goes together beautifully. Again, I'm not worried about seams and stuff, so I'm just going to pile the cement onto the outside. That'll wick around. Okay, we'll cut the clothes pegs and clamp that together, and then that can be drying while we play with the exhaust. Right. Okay, so as I say, the exhausts are on the G sprue, not the H sprue. So I've got them here, and what I'll do is I'll take one of these. This is going to be a number 1. So we cut these off like so, okay, and you can see that we've got a sprue gate there, so I'm going to cut that sprue gate off and then sand the end of the exhaust flat, and then just touch the top just to get on. Some of them there's a tiny little bit of a residual bit, and you can see if I blow that out, you can see the exhaust outlet is there and the slot isn't very big, whereas if you look at my exhaust on this engine, you can see I've enlarged. I think Dottie's going to bark. If I compare that to that, you can see that I've enlarged. Okay, she's finished now. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can make it out or not. It might be easier if I take this exhaust off so you can see it. Come on, off you come. There we go. So I'm not sure if you can make it out, but you can see there. Oh, Dottie, shut up. There we go. Right, she's sorry about the barking, guys. You can see that exhaust is a lot bigger on there than it is on the plastic part there. And all I do, oh come on Dottie, shut up. Okay, so all I'm going to do here is use this tool. I'm going to use the 2nd speed. I've got this little tiny dental burr. In fact, I'll turn it off so you can see it. It's a little tiny dental burr. Okay, get the camera to focus on it. Alright, I'm going to use this on the 2nd speed. All I'm going to do is come in here and go straight down the middle and just run straight along, just like that, and just deepen the slot. That's what I'm doing initially, is pushing down and deepening the slot. Okay, now I haven't gone far enough over that way, so I'm going to have to take some more meat over there. I would normally do this under a magnifier because I was blind as a bat. Okay, so we can push that into there, and as you can see, we've deepened that slot. Now I'm going to take an angle over to this way, an angle over to that way, angle outside, and just basically just open out that exhaust. Now I'm not going to finish it off here on camera because I need to do it under a magnifier. I'm going to get that outer wall as thin as I can reasonably, and you can see already that it's much better. Okay, so you can just clean out the swarf with a knife and have a look at it. As I say, I'll do it under a magnifier, and you can see here I've gone to the left but not to the right enough. So I'll get this under a magnifier and then I'll come back and show you how it looks after I've done it. Alright, so that's done now. As I said, I'm sorry I couldn't show you on camera, but I need to do it under a magnifier. The problem is with these, if you go wrong, that's it, it's all over. So yeah, one of these little tools and a couple of dental burrs are probably necessary for this kit, but you can spend your money on that rather than buying resin exhausts and stuff, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with these. They've got the weld seam, and if you open them up, they've got hollow ends. They're lovely. So there we go. You can see the improvement there. That's the plastic part, with the standard part, that's the modified. It makes quite a difference. And all I do then, just as a final thing, get the extra thin, get most of the extra thin off the brush. You don't want to wet it really, you just want it damp. Just run that around, and that removes any little fluffy bits, hairy bits or burrs. Okay, so now you can see the difference in the parts, and it looks much better when you look at them like that. What you can see, let's bring the light forward a bit, maybe it'll help me a bit. But it looks much better. I can't get the bloody camera's forming a shadow, that's the trouble. There you go. I can't show you. It's the black abyss, isn't it? And the camera's forming a shadow with the light and everything. It's very difficult. Okay, so there we go. So I'll get the rest of those done. and then we'll get them glued in. Okay, so there, I've done 6 of them. That's one side done. Now it's worth looking on these. You can see that we have this seam here. Okay, don't remove that. It's supposed to be there. It's a weld seam from the real thing, not the band from the real aircraft. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this mold seam down the side. Okay, so we're just going to get a skinny stick and just come in and sand away that seam. Don't worry about it being all neat and tidy. You just want to get rid of it, because otherwise when you put washes on and stuff, it'll stick out like a sore thumb. So we just rub that away like that. Okay, just like so. And then I'm just going to get a little foam sander and just give that a quick little polish. Alright, and that'll make your exhaust look lovely. There is one downside to this kit. That's the only downside I've found so far. On 2 of them, there's one each side. You can see that on this one there's a hole in the back, and that's to prevent it sinking. This one doesn't have a hole. I think the mold tool must be broken, but sure enough it's got a sink mark, so that needs to be filled. But once you've got these all sanded off, okay, and you've opened your exhaust and put some glue in there, start from the back. And what you can do is look on here. You can see we have this is H1 and F16. So I've got F16 and this is G1, and they've given us a fantastic diagram to show here how they should look. So when you look at these front on, like so, you should, sorry, like that, you should see that they are angled down. So you can see that when this face here is vertical, that should face down, and it does. You can see by the drawing there. All right, so we'll start from the back. We're going to plonk that in. They're a lovely fit. Okay, so that's going to go in there like that. They're really awkward to put in because the shape of them. I kind of wish Airfix had put a pin on the back or something, but if they'd done that, we'd have sink marks everywhere. So that's just going to glue into there like that. And as I say, start from the back and work your way forward. Okay, there we go. And it doesn't matter if they don't come out all perfectly straight. What I did was put a straight edge on these. You can see even then they look a little bit wonky. But that's how they were in real life. They would have been a little bit because they were just held in with a flange. So there we go. And then with the heating and cooling, they'd probably move around a bit anyway. So I need to get that hole filled in that one. We've also got the same here. You can see they've all got this slot except for that one. And sure enough, that one's got a sink mark in it. So there we go. So we get those 2 holes filled in, get them sanded, sand out these seams, and that's it. And we're going to add this. We're going to stick this onto the front of the engine. Okay, so that's just going to go on. Which way up does it go? Like that. Okay, you can put it on the wrong way. No, you can't. Okay, so that's going to go on like that. So what we'll do is hold that in place there. Okay, and a little drop of cement in here. You're going to be able to see this if you take the prop off, but I doubt you're going to take the prop off. So there we go. Sort of rock it around. You can see it's got a bit of rock, so we'll just put it in the middle. There we are. That's that done. Okay, and then that is our engine done. And then what we'll do is fit these exhausts when we actually build the model. Now they're telling you to fit these exhausts now, so you fit those on there like that, and that's done. The trouble is, when it comes together, you've got these 4 locations here that are going to go into the bulkhead, and you've got these wing fillet roots here. Now I would rather have a perfect fit with these, cut these locating pins off and have these slightly out on there, than have to mess around with loads of filler and everything in there. So I'm not going to glue these onto the engine yet, same as I haven't glued them onto that engine, but you can get an idea of how it'll all look when it's all done and painted and everything. It will look like that. Okay, so you can see your lovely exhaust. If you want to see how I did that, go back and have a look at part 2 or 3, I think. I did the exhaust. So there we go. And then I gave them a great big thick coat of matte varnish to seal it in, and the matte varnish turned white. I didn't think what I was doing. So there we go. So there we are, guys. That's a very quick video on building the dummy engine. And you can see here when you put them next to each other, it's quite a difference, isn't it? It's quite a difference, especially when you look from underneath. So you've got loads of bits left in your spares bin. So quite for what I don't know. But and as I say, I'm not going to put these on yet. because I want to fit them when all the cowlings go together, because the trouble is with fitting these now, you glue them in nice and solid, your exhausts are all glued in nice and solid, everything's fitted, and then you find the cowlings don't fit. So yeah, I'd rather not do that now. I would rather actually build this up as a unit with the cowlings and everything and plonk it on the front. So I'm not sure if that's what we do in the end of the day. This is the one with the dummy engine, so no, we're fitting the cowlings afterwards. So they're telling us, where are we going to fit the engine? Where are we going to fit the engine in here? Here we go. So you've got the dummy engine or the full engine going in, and you've got all these location points to look for. Yeah, worth considering. Now what I would rather do is, rather than glue that in now, I would rather fit all the cowlings and everything at the same time. We'll work that out when we come to it. So as I say, there we are, that's that done. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this. Either I'm going to carry on with the US Army Air Force version, all opened up, because that's the one I want to have all opened up, or I'm going to put that to one side and build the RAF version all closed up. So I don't know what we're going to do, but we will do one or the other because we're going to finish one of them. But the all closed up one will just be out of the box, all standard. The open up one, because I realise Peter at Airscale is now doing a beautiful cockpit set for it. So I would rather wait for Peter's parts to become available and go and buy some of those and go from there. Alright, and I've lost one of the exhausts already. How have I managed that? What a numbskull. There it is, I flicked it off the bench. Okay, so I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for part 6 of the build. And not really sure where to go from here. I think I might do the RAF version, but because this is just too nice to have. It's a beautiful, beautiful engine. It's going to be on display, but if I'm having it on display, as I've said before, I want the cockpit and everything to be open. And if I'm having the cockpit open, I'd rather use the Airscale cockpit set in that one than have it in a closed up version. So there we go. Right, I will see you all soon. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.